Hello everybody and welcome back to my podcast, Esme's Country Life. Today I thought I would talk about a specific topic. I know in my previous episodes they've been very much like a bit of an update, a bit of, what's happening in my life at the moment, sort of current things. And today I thought I'd talk a little bit more about my past and also a little bit more about my jobs that I had before I did YouTube. So, not many people know this, but I actually used to work at a vet's practice when I think I was 16 when I first got the job or when I first started working there, and I have some really funny and interesting stories from my job and working there, but also I thought I'd talk about, some of the other like smaller jobs that I had when growing up, because I always find that's really interesting. So I think the first sort of jobs I did was when I was quite young, actually. I think I must have been like 12, 13 maybe, kind of when I was like a baby teenager. There was a lady that lived down the road from us and she had a horse, and when she was like away or that kind of thing, I would look after her horse for her. So often, I'd just go over there, give the horse a bit more haylage or hay, muck out the stable, that kind of thing, give the horse a little bit of a groom and attention, and she'd just leave like a little £5 note or something under a bucket for me, and that was only down the road, so I'd get on my bike and like cycle down there. There was another family that lived not too far away from me, and when they were on holiday or when they were busy, I would look after their guinea pigs for them. So often I'd just like go down there. I was going to say muck out guinea pigs, that sounds a little bit excessive, like you normally say muck out horses. I'd like clean out their hutch and that kind of thing, and give them some food and give them some piggy cuddles. And not many people probably know this about me, but pretty much from the age of 4 or 5 till back in 2020, so how old was I? I've been 19. Like basically my whole life I've almost always had guinea pigs. So we actually had quite a few guinea pig babies. We had I think we've had two different litters of guinea pig babies from different mums, and one of the guinea pigs we actually borrowed from our local riding school. They had a male guinea pig that I think it lived with a rabbit actually, and we were like, could we borrow your guinea pig so we can have guinea pig babies? So this is so off topic, but I just remember when we had these guinea pig babies, me and my mum, we really wanted to watch the birth. This probably sounds absolutely insane, but what we did was we got a mattress, put it on the floor in the kitchen, because they had our guinea pigs in the kitchen at the time for when the birth was happening and things, and we slept there the whole night. And it was 6 a.m. when we would have been waking up anyway, and my dad just walked down and he was like, oh, have they had their babies yet? And we were like, no. And then literally as he said that, started having the babies. So yeah, there we go. I think the exact same thing happened the second time as well. We had the second litter. I think last time we had guinea pig babies was probably, I want to say, I think I was year 8 at the time, so I would have been like what, 12, 13. I have rescued or rehomed guinea pigs as well in the past, so obviously when it comes to animals, please breed and rehome responsibly. Anyway, so yeah, I love guinea pigs. I'm really sad that I don't have any guinea pigs anymore, because our last one, unfortunately, her friend passed away during lockdown. They were really, really old. I think they were, for guinea pigs, though, she was a good age. She was like 7 or 8. Her friend unfortunately passed away during lockdown, and she passed away like not that long afterwards, because I know you're not supposed to have guinea pigs on their own. It's really sad for them and really bad for them to be on their own. They're supposed to have friends, but because it was during COVID times, we weren't allowed to leave the house and that kind of thing. We were, as soon as like lockdown lifted, we were gonna go and try and find her a friend, although she was a very elderly piggy, and then in the end she ended up passing away not long after. So luckily she wasn't on her own for long. I know that sounds horrible, but yeah, I've always had guinea pigs in my life. So I used to look after our friends' guinea pigs as like a little job when I was younger. I feel like my parents never really gave me and my brother pocket money. If we wanted to do something, we had to kind of like work for the money. Something else that I did, because I was a little entrepreneur back in the day, I mean still now, but what I would do is we had we still do, we have a little bit of an orchard. We have basically, an orchard sounds a little bit excessive. We have a few apple trees in the field or in my parents' sort of garden. So what I'd do is I'd pick these apples, I'd like wrap them up in a little bag, and I would put them on the side of the road, and I'd make little apple signs out of like an old bit of wood and like paint apples on. And you'd think like, oh my gosh, who would like just buy apples randomly off the side of the road? But a surprising amount of people ended up buying apples. I can't remember how much I sold them for. I think they were probably like 6 in a bag. I think it was like maybe the same price as supermarkets or a little bit more expensive. But I remember one summer, I think I made about £40, which for a kid, like, that is a lot of money. Like, I mean, it is a lot of money, and I was surprised. There was one person, though, I was very angry, I was very upset, because I had like a little piggy bank outside, and, you know, you could probably tell that it wasn't an adult selling these apples on the side of the road, and somebody stole all my apples and stole all the money that was in the piggy bank. Like, every day I would get off the school bus, or I'd come home and I'd, check if the money was in there. I mean, I did it over the summer as well, but apples kind of grow in the, like, autumny kind of time, summer, autumn, so it was kind of when I was going back to school again. I'd get off the school bus and straight away I'd like check my little piggy bank, but yeah, somebody stole all the money and all my apples, so that was really sad. But luckily it was only like a day's worth of money, rather than, you know, I didn't just leave it there overnight every day. But yeah, there we go. I remember saving all that money up, and I bought a saddle pad for Mickey. So that shows how long ago it was, because I was riding Mickey back then. Little boy is retired now. He's a little bit older. I often get asked quite a lot, like, why Mickey is retired. But basically, long story short, is he has lots of different health problems, and me and the vet were like, you can keep him in work, but I think it's best, like, he's just not ready. And I think most of it was due to his feet after having an outbreak of laminitis. But he's got Cushing's, he's got a respiratory problem, he's got skin condition, that boy has got so many things wrong with him, but he's going well, he's doing well, he's living his best sort of YouTube horse life. But yeah, there we go. And then another sort, I'm going to call it a job and talk about it in today's episode, just because it's quite interesting, especially for any of my younger audience that's listening and wants to do this. So I did something called the Young Equestrian Leaders Award. So I used to work at my local riding school, but obviously I did it for free, because it's like a volunteering kind of thing where you volunteer and help the local sort of equestrian community, and then you have this little booklet and you get signed off for each session you do and how many hours you do. And when you build that kind of up, I can't remember if I did my gold or not. I definitely did my bronze and my silver, which is really good to do, because I'm pretty sure you can get UCAS points for it. So if you're from like a different country, basically it's points that go towards if you're maybe applying for college or university. It like looks good on your resume. So I did that. And also one of the other reasons why I did that, I did my Duke of Edinburgh Award. Again, I'll explain what that is for people that aren't in the UK. So the Duke of Edinburgh Award is an award that a lot of people, I think it's people do it around like the age of 15, 16. You can do, like, there's different levels as well. There's bronze, silver, gold. Gold one is very extreme. I think my brother did that actually, which is very cool. He's going to Buckingham Palace. So if you do the gold one, you get invited, and I don't know, I have to ask Max once he's been what it's like, what they do, but that's pretty cool. I remember when I did my bronze, I got like a little badge and you get like a little signed certificate. So what that involves is, it's such a long time ago now that I did it. I'll try to get all my facts correct. You had to do, the main thing that most people think of it is the expedition. So you do a practice one and then you do a real one, and you have to walk so many miles using a map and a compass, like finding your route. You have to camp, you have to I think you have to maybe take some photos or something. You have to make a meal as well while you're camping. You can't just have like pot noodle, you know, it has to be like a proper like campfire meal that you make. So there's like, yeah, that's the expedition. My brother's expedition, I think, was a little bit more extreme than just, you know, one night in a tent. That was like a full-on week or something. Just, you know, and you had to carry everything as well. You had to have your, your tent. You have to have your little gas canister and your not your fire, but the thing that you cook your food on, and everything like that, which is quite heavy. Luckily, I was in a team. I think there was between the three girls. I think we had 3 girls and 2 boys in our team, so we had quite a big team, and we managed to like separate the weight of the 2 tents between the 5 of us, and that was I honestly had so much fun. Like, that was such a funny. I feel like bronze is like a good level of kind of chilled but funny. Like, if something goes wrong, it's not the end of the world, it's normally okay. But my brother's one was like going up a mountain and stuff, which is a bit more extreme. I didn't end up doing the gold one in the end, because I had quite a small year group when I was in my last 2 years of school, which is normally when you do the gold one. Nobody else wanted to do it, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it on my own or with like a different school with like random people. I'm not that brave. So and then, yeah, another part of the Duke of Edinburgh Award is you have to log so much of doing like a sport or some sort of physical activity. So obviously I did riding, and my riding instructor signed off the thing to make sure that I did so many hours of horse riding. And then there's another section which is community service. So a lot of my friends worked in charity shops or volunteered in charity shops, or different ways to give back to the community. So for my one, I worked at my local riding school, and I volunteered helping like the kids with riding lessons, tacking up, mucking out, that kind of thing. So I also, when I did my Duke of Edinburgh Award, I also got all the hours that I did volunteering signed off for my YELA, or my Young Equestrian Leaders. So if you are an equestrian and you're not doing much over the summer and you've got some time to volunteer, I'd really recommend doing something like that, especially if like maybe your local RDA group. I kind of wish I went there. I feel like my time probably would have been better there than just the local riding school. Although I do have there's a close place in my heart to my local riding school. It was really nice going back actually, because I was about 15 at the time, and last time I rode at that riding school, I think I actually had a few lessons after I had Mickey. But it was when I was looking for Casper, because I wanted to, I was kind of outgrowing Mickey, and I wanted to see what it was like to ride like a bigger horse. So I actually had a few lessons there on some of their like bigger horses, just to kind of see what it was like, because, a step up from a 13-hand pony to a 15-hand horse is quite big, even though Casper's technically a pony. But he's weird. He's like an overgrown pony, because technically his breed is a Connemara, so he's a pony, but he's the height of a horse because he's 15 hands. So there you go. The more you know. Anyway, so yeah, it was actually really nice going back to that local riding school, because obviously all the instructors were kind of the same, so I knew them, and they're like, oh my gosh, you've grown up so much. And also it was really lovely seeing all the ponies. Like they still had quite a few of the ponies that I learnt to ride on. So it was actually really nice when the instructors would be like, oh, can you go and get like Toffee up from the field? I would know who Toffee was. So that was really sweet, kind of seeing the childhood ponies that started off my journey riding. And that's how I got into riding. The local riding school would literally ride past my house, and I pointed out the window to my parents being like, I want to ride horses, please. After many years of begging, because they were like, I do not want my child to get into the sport. It is way too expensive. It's very dangerous as well. But no, my parents love it now. My parents have actually, I'd say my dad has become more of a horse person than my mum, coming from a non-horsey background. The other day, it was actually so sweet. My dad just every now and again goes up to me and be like, thank you for bringing horses into my life. It's very sweet. Anyway, so it was really lovely working at that local riding school. It gave me a lot of experience in like the equestrian world as well. And also I did a lot of leading, so I was kind of like leading and teaching like young equestrians. So that was really nice to sort of give back to the local community. And then we're going to go on to my actual first ever and only time that I've been employed. So when I was 16, I was very lucky to get a job at the local vet's practice. And the reason actually how I kind of got the job / knew the job was up for sale, and that's not how it works. They were looking for somebody to be in that role or that position. Was the vet that actually comes and sees us, we know quite well, because I feel like the vets always kind of remember us because we're the family with the donkeys, and not many people, people do have donkeys, but especially when it comes to equine vets, you're not going to forget, the yard with the difficult donkeys, because our donkeys, when my parents first got them, were a little bit on the feral side. Like they just hadn't been handled that much by humans. So, but also his daughter that was currently doing the role that I got the job for, she was moving off to university, so she couldn't do the job there anymore. And I'm pretty sure she went to go and be a doctor or something medical, and maybe did some like sitting in with my mum, because my mum is a doctor, and like work experience kind of thing. So and then he was like, oh, like, she's done that. I was saying that I was thinking of being a vet, which is quite funny, like kids swapping what their parents want to do, but the same way around. Anyway, you know what I mean. So because I was interested in being a vet at the time, so they were like, oh, like we've got this job at the local vets, like the small animals practice in the local town, and I know that Esme goes to college or school in that town. Would she be interested in working there? So went and did my interview, which I was honestly like so nervous for. I don't know why. I think because it was like my first proper time doing something as an adult, if that makes sense. I think I was like learning, I was 16 at the time, so I didn't even know how to drive. So I just finished high school or secondary school, was in my first year of college, and everything started. That's the sort of age where you kind of basically go from a child to an adult, and you're kind of going through that phase where you still feel a little bit like a child, but you're becoming an adult and everything's a bit weird. But anyway, so I remember being really nervous about that, even having like a little bit of a stress dream beforehand. But yeah, obviously did well in the interview. I think it was good that I had all that past experience working with horses that I could talk about when I volunteered at the riding school. So if you're younger, and that's also really good for future job application, showing that you're responsible, that you've volunteered or worked somewhere else before. So that was really good. Got the job. Obviously, before I start talking about my time working there, all of the patients, all of the animals, people, that kind of thing, I'm going to keep confidential for legal reasons. Not that there's anything bad that I'm going to be talking about, but just because of patient confidentiality. That is a long word for my dyslexia. Because of patient confidentiality, I don't want to upset anybody or anything like that. But yeah, no, I had a really lovely time while working there. It was really nice because I started pretty much as soon as I finished studying at college. So I just walked down the high street, go down. My job role, which I haven't even talked about yet. So I was called a kennel maid or a kennel girl, which is kind of like the bottom of the levels that there are working at vets. So I basically did all the very mucky, dirty, stinky, kind of gross jobs. But I actually really enjoyed it. I did lots. Basically, my routine kind of when arriving was normally I'd like check all the kennels, make sure there was like no poo or wee or that kind of thing, and then I'd change the beds, put some stuff on the washing machine, did lots of sweeping, lots of mopping, lots of spraying of surfaces, cleaning everything down. I actually quite enjoy cleaning. I find it very satisfying. I mean, I can't lie, the job that I was doing is definitely not a job that I would have wanted to do for the rest of my life. So it was really nice to have like a sort of part-time job like that, because I feel like it really makes me appreciate the job that I do now 100%, but also I felt like it made me want to study hard in my exams so I could do well in life and get a good job when I was older. So that was nice. But yeah, there was some days would be better than others. I remember coming in, and I think I'm not going to talk about anything gory in this because I know some people get really squeamish with things, but there was one time where I walked in and it was just like I think a dog had nicked something, or there was a lot of blood everywhere. And yeah, there was a lot of mopping up to do. And then there were other days where they would have like I was going to say an easy day. I feel like no day working at a vet's practice is easy. So yeah, my heart goes out to all the vets and vet nurses and even doctors and nurses as well. Like the job that they do is really, really difficult. So well done to you guys. My heart goes out to you. But on one of the days where it was maybe a little bit quieter at the vet's practice, I came in and it was honestly like the best day ever. Like this was my best day. The vet nurses they had like a bleach day where they kind of like just bleach everywhere, so it's like a full kind of like clean. So that had all been done, so I had like not really much cleaning to do in that sense. And what I got to do instead was there was I can't remember if it was a C-section, and that's why there were loads of puppies in, but there were loads of puppies in for some reason, and I got to wash them, and that was so much fun, like just giving puppies a bath. Like I was like, I'm getting paid to do this. This is great. And then there'll be other days where it would be like vomit on the floor, poo on the floor, feces, everything. And I'll be like, yeah, this is a lot. So yeah. And then some of the days would be really nice, especially if sometimes I'd work like later, if like emergencies came in, you never really were sure what it was going to be like. Those were probably, when it was like later, it's not that I struggled. It was just, I had a lot going on at the time because I was doing my A-levels, all my exams and that kind of thing. So I had a lot of homework, I was doing a lot of revision, and I was doing a lot of work as well, but I don't regret a minute of it. It was such good experience, and it really made me see what it was like to work at a vet's practice, and if that was what I kind of wanted to do, because it is to do veterinary science or veterinary medicine university, it is like a very big and intense degree, because you're there for 5 years. You have to be super intelligent for it as well. And I did really well in my GCSE exams. I'm pretty sure I got all A's and A stars, and I was the first year to do like the numbered kind of ones, and I got a 7 in maths, which I feel like if the people are going to be like, if you don't do like grades like that, they're going to be very confused. 9 is like the best, but that's like an A star, which is like almost impossible to get. And then 1 is the worst. And I'm pretty sure I got a 7 in maths, a 7 in one of my Englishes, and a 6 in the other, which I was very proud of myself for, being dyslexic and getting that. English was probably the subject, not that I struggled with the most. I don't know. I like some aspects of English I loved, some I've struggled with a little bit more. But anyway, back to working at the vets. Because I was thinking of being a vet for a while, and that was kind of before I was diagnosed with dyslexia, or like found out I had dyslexia like quite a bit later on, like quite late in age. I think I was like 16, 17. So it was after I'd done my GCSEs. GCSEs I found not easy, but I think because I worked so hard, it kind of got overlooked. And I feel like with GCSEs, if you work really hard, you can get good grades. But with A-levels, like I worked so hard, but a lot of it is probably a little bit more down to if you're just, intelligent, if that makes sense, like naturally. And also when I was in primary school, actually, it's not that they kind of like were like, oh, I think she might have dyslexia, but not quite, because like she's doing well at school. And I think that was so it was kind of like brought up then, but not properly. So I think because I just, it wasn't picked up properly at a young age, it just never, I didn't really find out until I was older. So when I made silly mistakes, which teachers would always tell me off for, saying I was sloppy or I was lazy, it was actually, my dyslexia that I was struggling with. And that's why my reading age when I was younger was low, but, I was good at creative writing and all that kind of thing. So that bumped up my grades in other ways. But anyway, back to working at the vets. I was thinking of being a vet at the time, so that's why I was working there, as I kind of explained before. But no, some days were very interesting. I remember one day I walked in and I was like, what on earth has gone on here? Because there was just like feathers and straw. There was like a full-on like tree, not a full-on tree, but there was like a branch with like leaves on. And I think somebody had brought their chicken in. And I don't know if the chicken had a little bit of a run around the consult room, which is like the best way. The consult rooms are kind of like, because I worked in a vet practice, obviously, where they had surgery and they had the consult rooms. They were kind of like the GP kind of family doctor rooms. That's how I'd describe it, but in vet terms. So I'd clean those like right at the end of the day. I'd have to wait until all the consults were finished with before I could clean in there. And also I did things like I'd restock quite a lot of the medicines. So I can remember quite a lot of the medicine and vaccine names, and I'd restock the vaccines. And then, the worst was probably cleaning out the not chemical waste, but like animal waste bins. That was a little bit nasty. When Joey, actually, this is such a weird thing. When Joey had his injury and he was on like quite a lot of drugs and things, and like painkillers and antibiotics, his poo smell exactly like those bins at the vets, and it really transformed me back. Like, scent is really connected to memories and things. So I was like, oh, Joey, you smell like a vet's bins, and that is not a compliment. So luckily Joey does not smell like that anymore. I think all of the drugs are out of his system, but his poos did smell like that for a good while. If you've ever had a horse like that, you'll know what I mean. But yeah, there was one rug and I was like, that needs to go in the washing machine. That is it ponged. But no, I had a really good time. I was really lucky that if I actually got to sit in for quite a lot of different vet consults or watch surgeries, which was great because I like kind of wrote everything down. And so if I didn't end up deciding to go to vet school in the end, but if I did, then I could have talked about a lot of those experiences when I was applying for university, which would have been really, really valuable. and all the vets were so lovely. I feel like probably when I worked there I was quite shy. I think it's because I didn't really want to get in the way. I mean, I did ask quite a lot of questions, and that's one of the things I always say to people when they ask me, like, oh, like, do you have any advice when it comes to riding and that kind of thing? And I always say, you can never ask too many questions, and no question is silly. Like, if you don't know the answer to something, it's better to ask that question than, you know, do something wrong and make a fool of yourself, or, you know, something like that. So I always say, yeah, ask as many questions as you can, because also there are lots of different ways of doing things in the horse world as well. Like, I feel like there's no right way to do one thing. I always say, you know, train the horse for the horse you've got in front of you. Some things might work for that horse, some things might not, and in the horse world, you never stop learning when it comes to the horses, because each horse is different. So there we go. But yeah, I felt like when I worked there, I was a little bit more on the shy side. I mean, I was, freshly kind of 16 at the time, so I was quite a shy person back then anyways. But no, it was really nice, like, talking to all the vets about what it was like to be a vet, and all the vet nurses as well. I could definitely see that it was quite a high stress, high pressure job. And I think, looking back now, I'm glad that I didn't go down the vet route, not because I don't think I would have enjoyed it, but I don't think it would have been the right job for me, especially, I think I would have struggled a bit with my dyslexia. I think I don't know, I think I would have found it hard in different places. Like, I can just imagine myself, like, making a silly mistake like I would do in, like, my maths, where I'd write down the wrong number or put something in the wrong place. And imagine if I, like, gave an animal the wrong amount of medication or the wrong amount of something, because I accidentally, like, in my brain thought a 5 and wrote down a 7 and gave it 7. Like, I don't know, that would scare me a little bit. But no, it was really, really nice when working there. Now we're going to probably go on to some of the more, I was going to say horror stories, not really horror stories, just like funny / scary stories at the time. So we'll start with a funny one. This wasn't actually at the vet's practice that I worked at. It was actually at a different practice where I did my work experience. So I'm pretty sure they still have this in the UK, where when you're about, I think it's when you're doing your GCSEs, or maybe the year before that, I think I was probably like 14, 15 at the time, you have a week off school where you get to work somewhere as work experience. So I worked at a different local vet's practice, and I remember on the first day, I think it was actually one of the first consults that I sat in on, it was a pug, and the pug had to have its anal glands done. And I thought I was out of the way. The vet thought I was out of the way. Don't know what happened, but when the pug's anal glands were pressed and emptied, the direction that they literally went all over my top, all over my face, and it was like, yep, welcome to veterinary. It's a bit of a messy job. So yeah, I remember the rest of the day, I actually felt quite cool because I got to wear one of the, like, vet nurse kind of scrubs rather than just, like, the polo top that I had on. So I was like, yeah, I work here. I'm a vet nurse, that kind of thing, even though, you know, I was just sitting in there kind of watching and looking at all the cute animals. There were some, like, very, like, harder days that were really tough when working there, and you have to be quite a tough person. I remember there was a bag of kittens. I'm not going to talk about too many, like, sad stories, but there was a bag of kittens that somebody had just dumped on the doorstep, rang the doorbell, ran away, that kind of thing. And there were a few of them that unfortunately didn't make it in the end, so that was really sad. Of course, while I was there, saw quite a few different animals be put down for different reasons. Often, luckily, most of the ones that I did see were animals that had lived a very long and happy life, and it was just the end of their life, and they were suffering quite a lot with the pain that they were going through. It was quite lovely seeing all the sort of owners and their animals, because I don't think we called them owners when I worked there. I think we called them their parents, which was really sweet. So I remember when Joey went to the vets, he wasn't Joey, he was like Joey Higgs, and I was his, like, parent, which was very sweet. But anyway, he's my baby. But no, I saw lots of other different things as well, loads of success stories, which was really lovely to see. My favourite was probably seeing, like, C-sections, just because I loved seeing all the puppies and kittens afterwards, which was really sweet. Obviously, it was sad when, unfortunately, there were some that didn't make it. We're now going to go on to a story which I found scary. The vets found it hilarious. But so one day I was, you know, mopping the floor, as you do, and I as you probably heard from one of my previous episodes, like when I get into something, I feel like I'm as I said before, I'm not a violent person, but when I get into something and I'm like proper doing it, like when I was painting the ceiling, like I was painting that ceiling hard, I was scrubbing really hard at this stubborn stain or something on the floor, and I was scrubbing it, and then suddenly I slipped and my mop knocked this heart monitor off one of the kennels onto the ground, and it unplugged, and I was like, oh my god, I've just killed this animal, I'm a murderer. I was freaking out, and I shouted from all the vets, like, oh my goodness, I'm really sorry, I knocked this heart monitor thing off, and then, like, I tried to put it back on, and then he was like, don't worry, there's batteries in them in case that happens. I was like, oh my gosh, this animal that was on, like, life support, I thought I'd just, ended it. So that was one time where I was like, okay, Esme, this is a very serious job. I mean, I was very serious and very professional when I worked there, but I was like, oh my goodness. That was very scary. I realised how much responsibility, these vets and vet nurses have. Another funny story was, luckily, I'd actually been it's not as bad because I've been working at the vet practice for a long time, and often, I remember the week's work experience I did, they made sure that the first sort of surgery, or when I was in theatre for the first time, I had like somewhere that I could sit down in case, because obviously they probably get quite a lot of students in, or people, not even students, you wouldn't, like, if you were fainting at this, then you probably wouldn't be cut out for veterinary medicine, but people that were doing like work experience, there would always be a chair there in case someone fainted, because some people are quite squeamish when it comes to stuff. Again, I won't talk about too much squeamish things, but anyway, I was in a consult room, so it was literally nothing squeamish at all, and no blood, nothing, not even talking about like anything gross. And I was in a consult room, and this is really awkward because it was this family being told their dog had diabetes. I'm pretty sure it was diabetes, or maybe it was cancer. It was something really sad that this dog was going to have to live with for the rest of its life. And they were talking about the medication that it needed to be given and how it needed to be given this medication. And I think that day, I don't know if maybe I hadn't eaten enough. I mean, I do have quite low blood pressure, although I've never fainted before. Touch wood, like, I'm not a superstitious person, but I have never fainted before. And I don't know what fainting feels like, but this is probably the closest I've ever been to fainting. And I remember standing in this consult room being like, oh my goodness, I feel a bit lightheaded. And then it was kind of like almost like a kaleidoscope, just like the edges of my vision started getting narrower and narrower and darker and darker. And I was like, oh, this is going to be really embarrassing if I faint. This is going to be really embarrassing if I faint. And I was like, what is worse? So I remember just like kind of not stumbling, but kind of just like leaning onto the wall, holding onto the sink on the side and being like, oh no, what's worse? Me fainting and causing an absolute scene while this family is being told that their dog has this life-threatening illness, or I just run out and look really rude and really awkward. And apparently I did go a little bit pale and a little bit green, because I think in the end I just went, I'm really sorry, I don't feel very well, I'm gonna leave. I just like ran out the door and went and sat like round where all the like office was and not chatted, but I kind of like sat down, and they were like, "Oh, Esme, you okay? You look a bit green or a little bit pale." And yeah, they went and got me some orange squash. They got me some biscuits, and I was fine after that. I had some biscuits and I was all good. But I remember all the vets like taking the mick out of me, like, we had quite a bit of banter when I worked there, and they're like, oh, was it like a bit too much for you? Were you feeling a little bit faint? Were you a bit queasy? And I was like, no, it wasn't anything to do with me being at a vet's. I just felt faint actually, I felt faint one other time, and that was also a very awkward, I feel like, I don't know what it is, whenever I felt faint, it's always been a very awkward situation. It was in an assembly at school. We're all sort of like sitting in the church listening to, I'm pretty sure it was an assembly about like the local air ambulance, and they were like raising money for it and talking about how important air ambulances were, and they were talking about a really important bit where they were talking about saving someone's life. Because I was one of the older ones, I was standing at the back because it was quite a small church and there weren't, many seats for everyone to kind of sit in. And I think it's, just me standing up for a long period of time. I think all the blood just goes from my head. I just remember the same sort of thing happening and me feeling like, oh my goodness, like I'm gonna faint, like I feel really. And yeah, I just decided to sit down on the floor. It probably looked really rude that I'd just gone and sat down when everyone else was kind of standing up, because I remember kind of being in the front of the kind of body of people where everyone was standing up. It probably looked really rude, but that is a tip in life. If you feel like you're going to faint, it doesn't matter if you look rude. It's better than, fainting and cracking your head open or something, or landing on a dog in a vet's practice. So there we go. That was, one of the probably most awkward stories or embarrassing stories when I was working there. There were lots of other little stories of different things that happened, but I remember when I was working at the vet's practice, that was kind of when my YouTube started taking off. It was in the year that I worked there, was the year that I went from 10,000 subscribers to 100,000 subscribers. And I remember when a few of the vets kind of found out about my channel, because I remember one of them was like, "Oh, Esme, I heard you make videos on the internet." And they sounded quite concerned at first. They're like, what videos do you make? Like, I feel like when I did YouTube, yes, there were people that did social media as a job, but it wasn't a cool thing to do. There were definitely two different sides of the internet, and I am definitely on the more wholesome side. But yeah, so they were very concerned about what videos I was making on the internet. I was like, no, I make videos about horses. And they were like, oh, okay. But yeah, back when I started doing YouTube as a job, nobody really wanted to be a YouTuber or wanted to be a content creator, or the word influencer now, which I hate, makes my skin crawl. I don't like being called an influencer. That's not what I do. I always just said to myself, oh, I'm a YouTuber. That's kind of what I was until 2020, when TikTok kind of came around, and there's so many different social media platforms now that you kind of have to be on if you are a content creator. But I prefer to say content creator because that's what I do. I create content. That's my main role in my job, is providing entertainment and that sort of source, rather than, I feel like influencer sounds very more salesy and very more like, you come and buy my stuff that I've been given to show you, because that's how I make money, by selling things to people, when for me it's definitely more about the creation of content. But anyway, when I was a YouTuber, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a YouTuber. And obviously there was a few people that did YouTube as a job, back in the day, everyone had heard of Zoella and PewDiePie and that kind of thing. But I never thought, being a horse content creator or YouTuber was ever possible, because I just didn't think that it was such a niche sport. I didn't think that enough people would be riding horses, or just like horses in general, and B, would watch my videos. So back when I worked at the vets, I started earning a little bit of pocket money from YouTube, and I actually, even when I started earning more money from YouTube than I did at my minimum wage, it was probably actually not below the minimum wage because that's illegal, but because I was 16 at the time, it was below the minimum wage for an adult, because I was technically a child at the time when I was working there. So don't worry, it was all legal. But minimal amount of money possible I was paid, I'm pretty sure. Although I did get paid for overtime. So if I did had to stay late because there was an emergency that came in or anything like that, I'd just write it down in a little book, and they'd add that onto my salary. But anyway, so when I was I was like, I do YouTube kind of for fun. I make videos about horses and that kind of thing. And I remember talking to them every now and again. And I think that a lot of people ask me when did you decide, okay, YouTube's going to be your job, that's what you're going to do? And I feel like there was never a point. My whole life I was kind of had my mind or my life planned out to be work really hard at school, go to university, get a really good degree so I can then get a really good job and that kind of thing. So that's just kind of was set in my mind, that's what I wanted to do, kind of thing. And then YouTube came around, and I decided, you know what, this YouTube thing, this is my passion. This is what I think about when I wake up in the morning, and what I think about when I go to bed. When I wasn't working at the vets, or even when I was working at the vets, actually, when I was kind of just mopping away, when your brain kind of, you have your mindfulness time, and your brain just kind of thinks of things. I was thinking of video ideas and what things I wanted to create and that kind of stuff, or what photos I wanted to get for Instagram, and that's kind of just what my brain was thinking 24/7, which pretty much still does now. But that was kind of when I realised like I had a lot more passion for that than I would have being a vet. And I feel like because being a vet is such a intense, just degree, life, everything, I realised that actually this YouTube thing that I'm doing is really what I want to do in life. So I had a gap year to see what it was like being as a job full time, if I could kind of make it in that sense. And then the pandemic happened, so I decided in the end, you know what, I'm really enjoying doing YouTube. I don't know if, going to university in the middle of a pandemic, like, it sounded very scary if I really wanted to do that. I didn't want to be a vet, and then I realised I didn't really know what I wanted to do if I did do a degree. I think looking back, something that I get asked most is what would I have done if YouTube wasn't a thing, because it wasn't a thing a few years ago, to be honest, as being a job. I think I probably would have done veterinary physiotherapy, so I would have done a physio degree first, and then I would have specialised. You can go to some universities where I think it's maybe like a year or two, and then you can specialise in equine or canine. So it would have been quite cool working like a dog hydrotherapy pool, which kind of links into the last episode I did actually, or doing equine hydrotherapy, or I don't know, just something. I decided that I'd rather work with rehabilitating animals rather than saving their life, because it would be less stress and less pressure, and also it would be more flexible work hours. I around that age realised that I'm really bad with late nights. I think I would have really struggled having to wake up in the middle of the night for an emergency or something like that, which I probably would have had to do if I was a vet. So there are lots of different aspects to lifestyle that you also need to think about when picking a job or choosing what job you want to do when you're older, kind of thing. But yeah, no, YouTube definitely wasn't. I feel like it's very much a job that, I think they did some study that if you ask most school children what they want to be when they're older, they often say content creator or influencer. When I was at school and doing YouTube, I was bullied for doing YouTube and I was made fun of. I don't know if that's a thing now, because I feel like everyone has a TikTok and everyone posts TikToks and everyone kind of wants to, or posts on Instagram wanting to get brand deals and all that kind of stuff. When for me, I just posted stuff because I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the sort of community that I had in the equestrian world. I'd talk to other people about horses, and I think my friends quite enjoyed that because I was that girl that would talk about horses all the time. So I had my internet friends that I'd talk to about horses, or my YouTube channel that I'd talk about horses too. But yeah, I remember at school just people being like, oh my gosh, there was this one boy that came up to me and he was like, oh my gosh, Esme, I heard you have a YouTube channel, that's so weird. And then he was like, how many subscribers do you have? And I was like, 1,000. I think that was when I just started year 11 at school. I'd just hit 1,000 subscribers over the summer. So, which back then, I mean, it is still very, very impressive and very good milestone. But if he said, oh yeah, I have 1,000 on TikTok now, people would be like, no, literally anyone can get 1,000 on TikTok, calm down kind of thing. TikTok, you could post one video and it blows up and 2 million people could see it, but nobody's going to remember it if it's a 3-second video. That's, there'll be another thing that blows up and another thing. So to gain a YouTube audience where 1,000 people are regularly watching your videos and have clicked that subscribe button, that back then, and still is now, I'd say YouTube is probably the hardest platform to grow on. But once you've got that audience, that you kind of have that audience for life. I still watch YouTubers that I used to watch, I was going to say 10 years ago, that's probably right. But maybe a bit less. I think it was about 2013, 2014. Oh my gosh, yeah, it is 2023 now, actually. I was thinking it was 2022 still. Oh my goodness. Time does fly. But yeah, I feel like I just started YouTube when it was definitely not a normal job. I remember a lot of people being really concerned that I decided to have a gap year or decided to go to university, but I knew in my heart that this is what I wanted to do, and I was going to work as hard as I could to make sure that I could try and achieve the dream that I come up with. And I'm very lucky to say today that I'm still doing that dream. I'm still doing the job that I love so much, which I honestly could not thank all of you enough. You are the reason that I'm doing this. But yeah, there we go. That is pretty much my I was going to say life story, not quite. I've kind of done that on my YouTube channel. I did my like YouTube and riding story, which is pretty similar. But that's kind of how I decided to do this as a job, which I know is a very weird job. I feel really bad for my boyfriend every time like people ask him like, oh, what does your girlfriend do? And he has to like kind of explain to people like what I do. It's like, even I don't like doing that. Imagine having to do that for someone else. Like it sounds really bad, but back when I was in my gap year, like if someone asked me, oh, what do you do? I'd just be like, oh, I'm on my gap year. I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm a YouTuber. It's not really like, I don't know. Like now I feel like I just say I work. It depends who I'm talking to. Like if I'm talking to a farmer or someone, I'm just like, oh, I work in the horse industry or the equine industry, or I just say I work in media. Because being like, oh yeah, I don't know. It's just, it took a while for like my grandparents kind of understand what I do now. But if you talk to like older people, a lot of people are like, girl, what? You make videos on the internet? That sounds a bit sketchy. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, girl? But anyway, thank you very much for watching my videos, listening to my podcast, because yeah, I wouldn't be here without you. But I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I really enjoyed having a little chat about kind of almost reminiscing on the past, and I feel like life goes by so quickly now when you think about it, and how different my life is today compared to how it was a few years back. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!